Hello and welcome everyone. So today we are starting with the first class of environmental science. So for the first class we will study what is ecology and its basics. So we will study the introduction, that what it will contain. It will contain the basic definitions, then level of organisms, classification and components of ecosystem, functions of ecosystem and type of ecosystem. So let us start. So first of all, what is environment? So environment is the sum total of all the conditions that influence and affect the development of life of an organism on earth. Thus, what can we say? It can be said as the one's surrounding. Next up, our key is ecosystem. So ecosystem, the term was coined by Arthur Tansley in 1935. So what is ecosystem? Community of life forms in occurrence with non-living components interacting with each other, means living organisms and its continuous interaction with non-living organism. This is what is called ecosystem. Then next up we have ecology. This term was first used by German zoologist Ernst Haeckel in 1869. So what is ecology? The study of ecosystem. Study of ecosystem is known as ecology. Here we have two types of ecology. One is otecology and synecology. What is otecology? Study of relationship of individual species with the environment. Like for example, I may how honeybees interaction with the environment. This is otecology. Like if it is a individual species and its interaction, it is otecology. Synecology ki hoy? At a particular community, plant community, in relation to the habitat of a given ecosystem, like life inside rainforest, life inside desert. This is synecology. Next up we have Gaia's hypothesis, proposed by James Havelock. So ki koi hypothesis sir? It refers to state that Earth is a complex living entity with the sustenance of living dependent on self-regulating interactions among organisms and their inorganic surroundings. So main keyword is self-regulating interactions. Like, what does this mean? According to Gaia's hypothesis, Earth thought the organisms has a self-regulating power. For example, this how hibernation is a self-regulation for control of body temperature. Then deep ecology. So what does deep ecology considers? It considers human being as any other organism. Like for other theories, we consider human being as a superior organism, but according to deep ecology, it considers human being as any other organism like plants or animals. This concept was given by Ernest Naess in 1972. So next, we will see the level of organisms. So আমি যদি চাব যাও, from the bottom, we have individual, population, community, ecosystem, biome and biosphere. So what is individual? Individual or organism? Organism that has the ability, individual living being that has the ability to act or function independently. Jodi act koribo pare and function koribo pare independently, it is called an individual. It may be a plant, animal, bacteria, etc. So as given in the figure, let us consider a fish. This is an individual because it has the ability to act or function independently. Next up we have population. Population is a group of organisms, usually of the same species, occupying a defined area. Like at a particular area, if same species are present, this is called a population. Like for example, population of fish. Community. What does community refers? Community refers to population of different species living and interacting with one another. Then ecosystem. আমি যদি চাব যাও, population community মাজত difference to কি হয়? Population is usually of the same species. Like for example, same fishes. But community কি হয়? আমি কি দেখা পালো? Fishes plus other organisms too. So community refers to different species. Ecosystem. Ecosystem is the, as we have studied, sum of all organisms plus their physical environment and their interaction. So what is biome? Next up we have biome. The biome refers to a large geographical region characterized by particular climatic condition. Like this climatic condition is characterized by latitudinal difference. Like for example, tundra, desert, aquatic biomes, etc. So each biome has a unique characteristics that determine the kind of plants and animals that can survive and thrive in that particular environment. Next, at the top we have biosphere. Biosphere is the part where life can exist. So আমি যদি চাওঁ atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. Combining this, we have in the middle, it is the biosphere where life is possible on Earth. It is the biosphere. So biosphere is approximately 20 kilometer thick. Most life occurs between 500 meter below the surface of the ocean and about 6 kilometer above the sea level. Next up, let us see some few of the more important concepts. One is the carrying capacity. So what is carrying capacity? Carrying capacity refers to the maximum population size of a biological species that can be sustained by the specific environment, given the food, habitat, water and other resources available. For example, this is the size of the forest. So what maximum number of animals in this forest can survive, can sustain, given that food, habitat and water and other resources are available. In this particular food, habitat and other water resources, how many plants or how many animals can survive? For example, আমি যদি চাওঁ 5, so 5 is the carrying capacity. যদি 6 হৈ যায়, then it is exceeding the carrying capacity. Then planetary boundaries মানে কি? That safe operating limits for humanity, means what is how much the planet can sustain, how much of the population or resources planet can offer to us. It is decided on the basis of carrying capacity and ecological footprint. So let us see what is ecological footprint. Amount of biologically productive land and water that is needed to supply the people in a particular country or area with resources and to absorb and recycle the waste. For example, আমি যদি চাওঁ particular area, this is the area. So here, for a single human being, how much of the resources is needed? Like what তেওঁ কি লাগিব? আমি যদি চাওঁ, starting from food লাগিব, he will require shelter. For that, he will require resources. Then at the same time, he will also produce waste. So how much of this total waste, shelter of the environment he will consume, of the part of environment he will consume, and the way which can also lead to environment being actively sustainable. This is called ecological footprint. মানে particular environment কিমান area, কিমান part of the environment he will consume. That is the ecological footprint. Generally, ecological footprint is calculated on the basis of country. So as we know, Kuwait as a country has the highest ecological footprint, means they consume most of the part of environment. Clear? Then who counts it? It is counted by Global Ecological Footprint Network. It is a non-profit organization. Next up, we have an important concept. It is the Earth Overshoot Day. Earth Overshoot Day means it marks the date when humanity has exhausted natural budget for the year. For every year, these are natural budget like 100 units of resources. For example, 100 units of resources can be used. But if we use it from January 1 to December 31, but if we use this whole resources around July, so there is a Earth Overshoot Day, means আমি 1 year যিমানবোৰ resources asle we have consumed that in 6 or 7 months. That is the Earth Overshoot Day. So gradually, in the beginning we had an overshoot day in December. Now gradually it is decreasing to November, October. Now in 2023, Earth Overshoot Day falls on August 2. In 2025, it is most probably in June or July. So যেতিয়া Earth Overshoot Day will fall in January 1, then the day will mark the destruction of the earth. মানে earth has exhausted every natural budget for the year. Clear? Next up, we have the concept of habitat. Habitat মানে কি? Habitat is the physical environment or address. So কি হয় যে particular species, that lion, where does lion live? Lion habitat কি হয়? Grassland ecosystem. Tiger habitat কি? Grassland ecosystem. Clear? So it is a habitat, means address. So multiple organisms have shared the same habitat. But niche, what is niche? Functional characteristics of a species in habitat. Functional characteristics, what is the function it does? Means আমি যদি চাব যাওঁ ফাংশন এনিমেলছৰ ফাংশন কেৰেক্টাৰিষ্টিক্স কি হ'ব ফুড এণ্ড শেল্টাৰ প্লান্টছৰ কি হ'ব মইশ্চাৰ এণ্ড নিউট্ৰিয়েণ্ট চ' profession আমি যদি চাব যাওঁ যদি habitat is the address then niche is the profession মানে activities and responsibilities it does so every organism have different kind of niche mean different kind of food habit and shelter clear so if two species have the same niche then it will lead to competition and elimination of one species for example tiger aru deer if both have the same niche মানে both take the same kind of food যদি দুজনে যদি grass consume কৰিলে হয় then the one who can survive better survival of the fittest then it will lead to elimination of one of the organism clear this is niche on the basis of that we classify organisms into various kinds next up we see species we have been using the word species species word to use কৰিছো but what is species means similar genetic makeup plus ability to interbreed that is produce fertile offspring so if they cannot produce fertile offspring they are not categorized as species for example আমি যদি চাও mule is the crossbreed of horse and donkey but mule is not able to reproduce so it is not considered as a species mule cannot reproduce so we don't consider mule as a species so for being able to be species it must have the capacity to interbreed so on the basis of that we see few important species one is the keystone species মানে কি the species which have a large effect on the ecosystem like their presence or absence impact the whole ecosystem for example আমি যদি চাও top predators like elephant tiger lion for example আমি যদি এটা example হিচাপে চাও let us see tiger feeds on deer feeds on grass due to various occasion if tiger get displaced or tiger is disappeared then what will happen deer will consume all the grass and the whole grassland ecosystem will turn into a desert so presence of tiger is very much important for preservation of the ecosystem সেই কাৰণে আমাৰ ইয়াতে এতিয়া cheetah has been reintroduced clear to preserve the ecosystem then next is the indicator species I have given few more examples ever kindly চাই ল'ব like vultures what is the importance of vulture they prevent diseases then corals they are the marine biodiversity hub then indicator species মানে কি their presence abundance or absence সিহঁতৰ presence বা abundance indicate certain environmental condition মানে সিহঁতৰ presence or absence কিছুমান environmental conditions দেখায় for example presence of frog what it indicates that the water is fresh water then presence of lichens কি হয় lichens are very much sensitive to pollution and acid rains so if there is a presence of lichen then there is no pollution but absence of lichen indicates acid rain or air pollution then like আমি যদি আৰু চাব যাও bluefin maheshir what it indicates freshwater health dragonflies it indicates freshwater ecosystem clear next up we have endemic species what is endemic species are the ones which are found only in specific area and not anywhere else for example আমি যদি চাব যাও in Assam we have pygmy hawk they are found only in Assam specifically Manas National Park example আৰু যদি আমি চাব যাও Malabar civet endemic to Kerala red sanders endemic to Eastern Ghats Namdafa flying squirrel found in Arunachal Pradesh so these are the endemic species মানে এইবোৰ species only in particular areas পোৱা যায় not everywhere clear next up we have invasive alien species the invasive alien species are species which invade in some native area and grow at the cost of other species. মানে suppose বেলেগ স্পিচিছবোৰ আছে আমাৰ তাত, here a particular invasive species is grown, they do not allow the native species to grow and consume the food and other habitat of native species. So this species entering non-native area intentionally or unintentionally. Conditions কি হয়? Then faster propagation, that is not integrated with natural food chain, and there is no natural predator. আমি যেনেকৈ দেখা পাইছিলোঁ tiger, deer, then grass. So there is a natural predator system, but invasive alien species একো natural predator system নাই. Then last, multiply faster at the cost of other species, that is invasive, that is they colonize the whole area. আমি যদি চাব যাওঁ example lantana camara, Prosposis julifera, Congress grass, etc. Then flagship species are the ones which are called the celebrity of a region. মানে their presence is used as an advertisement or creating any awareness. For example, Madhya Pradesh tigers, they are used in advertisement. অসমত কি one horned rhino. Then umbrella species is somewhat similar to keystone species, but here they are considered more important from the conservation point of view. It is like an umbrella. Conservation of one species leads to conservation of many other species. So next we will discuss about the difference between biome and ecosystem. As we have already studied, biome is a large area and ecosystem is comparatively a smaller area. So how biome is defined? It is defined by specifically influenced by latitude, and ecosystem which is not influenced by latitude is a small area. Then climate, it is influenced by biome is influenced by strong climate having specific rainfall pattern and temperature, whereas ecosystem may have similar, 2 or 3 ecosystems may have similar climate. Then geographical area size, for biome it is a very large geographical size, and for ecosystem it is small. Animal life in biome, they do not necessarily interact with each other, but for an ecosystem to occur, they must interact with each other in the tropical levels. What are the examples of biome? Tropical rainforest, savanna, tundra, etc. And for ecosystem, what is the examples? This is a coral reef ecosystem, forest ecosystem, etc. Next, classification and components of ecosystem. So what is the classification? So ecosystem is classified on the basis of natural ecosystem and man-made ecosystem. Natural ecosystem is further classified as terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. For terrestrial ecosystem, we have different ecosystems like forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystem is classified as freshwater ecosystem, marine ecosystem, and brackish ecosystem. In freshwater ecosystem, we find 2 types of subdivision. That is one is the running water and one is the standing water. Running water is also called lotic ecosystem. For example, river, it is the example of running water ecosystem. And for lentic, there is a standing like pond, lake, etc. For brackish ecosystem, we find examples like mangrove ecosystem, wetland ecosystem, which we will study further in the class. Next, we have components of ecosystem. What constitute the ecosystem? So in ecosystem, we have 2 major components. One is the abiotic component and one is a biotic component. Under abiotic component, we have climatic factors and edaphic factors. Climatic factors include rain, light, wind, temperature, and for edaphic factors include soil, pH, minerals, topography like land, hilly areas, plain areas, etc. Biotic components is divided into producers, that is the autotrophs who produce their own food, and then the consumers who feed on autotrophs, and decomposers who feed on dead organisms. Under consumer, we have primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary and quaternary consumers. Next, we will study about the biotic components. So what are the abiotic? They mainly feed on non-living things like sunlight, minerals, etc. They are the non-living things. Then biotic, they are the living organisms. So biotic components divided into autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs are the self-nourishing and producers. Under autotrophs, we have phototrophs, which uses sunlight to produce energy, and chemotrophs, which uses hydrogen plus simple chemicals like, for example, sea sulfur bacteria. Sea sulfur bacteria. Under heterotrophs, we have macrophages, means bigger organisms, and microphages, which are comparatively smaller organisms. Macrophage, under macrophage we have herbivores which feed on green plants. Example the herbivores animal like cows. Next, carnivores which feed on herbivores. Example like tiger, lion. Omnivores which feed on both plants and organisms, like for example human being. Next, we have scavengers which feed on dead organisms like vulture, hyena, etc. Next, detrivores which feed on the ingest of the remains of the scavengers, like ingest fragments of dead and decaying tissue, like the one which is left by the scavengers is fed by the detrivores. Example, earthworm, shrimp, etc. Next, we have microphages, that is which they decompose, like bacteria, fungi, protozoa, etc. So let us see the difference between detrivores and decomposers. So first, if we see the aspect of size, detrivores are larger organisms like earthworm, insects which are visible through our eyes. But decomposers are microscopic organisms. Example, bacteria, fungi. But remember, it does not include virus, because virus is in the borderline between living and non-living. Next, function. So what does detrivores do? They physically break down organic material. What does decomposers do? They chemically decompose organic matter into simpler substances. Then stages, in which stage does detrivore function? It function in the initial stage of decomposition, while decomposers function in the final stage of decomposition. Output, what is the output? It presents smaller organic fragments, while decomposers produces nutrients like carbon dioxide, water and minerals as the output. Next, we will study ecosystem services. Questions have come previously in various exams like APSC, so let us study this. Ecosystem services মানে কি হয়, যে what are the benefits people obtain from the ecosystem. Ecosystemৰ পৰা আমি কি benefit, ecosystemক যদি আমি ইকোনমিক এটা এন্টিটি বুলি ভাবো, so what are the benefits obtained from ecosystem. So this was first initiated by Millennium Ecosystem Assessment under United Nations, and it defined 4 categories. One is the provisioning services, regulating services, cultural services and supporting services. So what are the provisioning services? The products obtained from the ecosystem, like hard hand products like food, fibers, ornaments, medicines, biofuels, etc. What are the regulating services? The benefits obtained from the regulation of the ecosystem. আমি যদি ইকোসিস্টেমক properly regulate কৰো, আমি কি benefit পাব পাৰো? Proper regulation gives benefits as in climate regulation, flood prevention, erosion control হয়, pest control, pollination, seed dispersal, disease regulation, etc. Then cultural services. Cultural services মানে কি হয়? The non-material benefits, hard and benefits নহয়, but non-material benefits আমি কি acquire কৰো ইকোসিস্টেমৰ পৰা. What is the educational, like research and development, recreational, example zoo, spiritual, sacred groups, মেঘালয়ত দেখা পাওঁ আমি, cognitive development, stress relief, gardening, stress relief like visit to a national park, gardening as a hobby. Then lastly we have the supporting services. It is the services necessary for production of all other ecosystem services. Supporting services is the one which helps in regulation of the provisioning services, regulating services and cultural services, like biodiversity, nutrient cycling, oxygen cycle, carbon cycle, which we'll study in next class. Clear? Lastly, we have the type of ecosystem. One is the, as we have already studied, terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem we will study in detail in the next class. Today we will study about the aquatic ecosystem. So aquatic ecosystem is the one which contains water as the main habitat. So here tinta type dekha paisilo ami. One is the marine ecosystem, brackish water and fresh water. So how are they classified? They are classified on the basis of salt concentration. So Salt concentration, if the salt concentration is more than 35 parts per million, then it is a marine ecosystem. Then brackish water ecosystem, if its salt concentration is between 5 to 35 parts per million. Freshwater ecosystem is salt concentration is less than 5 parts per million. Then zones of aquatic ecosystem. What are the various zones? On the basis of light penetration, আমি কি চাব পাৰো? We have photic zone and aphotic zone. Photic zone is the one where light passes. Jole sunlight pass hoy, it is the photic zone, and the one where light does not pass, it is the aphotic zone. On the basis of depth, আমি ডেফটৰ বেচিছত কি দেখা পাওঁ? লিটৰেল জোন. ইট ইজ আ শ্যালো পাৰ্ট. যোনবোৰ শ্যালো পাৰ্ট আছে ইক'চিষ্টেমৰ, ইট ইজ আ লিটৰেল জোন. দেন পেলেজাইক জোন. দ্য ডিপ পাৰ্ট, দিছ আ ডিপাৰ পাৰ্ট, ইজ দ্য পেলেজাইক জোন. এণ্ড বেন্থিক জোন, দিছ আ লোৱেষ্ট পাৰ্ট অফ দ্য ইক'চিষ্টেম, দিছ আ বেন্থিক জোন. Clear? On the basis of depth, we have littoral, pelagic and benthic zone. Then next let us see the aquatic organisms on the basis of their occurrence. First up we have planktons. This is the microscopic floating organisms present in the photic zone. These are the planktons present in the photic zone. Example, zooplankton, phytoplankton, etc. Next up we have nekton. They are the powerful swimmers. Example, fish, whales, etc. Then benthos. These are the ones living at the bottom of water mass, neither capable of swimming. Example, sponges, corals in the bottom. Here it is a benthos. Then neuston. Neuston is the one living in air-water interface. This is the neuston. Then periphyton. Periphyton is the one attached to stems and leaves of the rooted plants or substance emerged from the bottom muds, like from here. So here stems and leaves of junbur thake, they are the periphyton. Example, sessile algae. Then we have a related concept, there is a ecotone. So what is ecotone? So let us see this figure. This is the terrestrial ecosystem and this is the aquatic ecosystem. In between terrestrial and aquatic, we have a zone where both terrestrial and aquatic meet. This zone is called ecotone. This is a zone called ecotone, where two or more ecosystem mixes. This is the zone of mixing. This is called the ecotone. So example হিসাবে আমি যদি চাও কি হ'ব? Mangrove forest, ecotone between marine and terrestrial ecosystem, grassland, estuary, riverbank are some other examples. Clear? So what is the characteristics of ecotone? Transitional, quite narrow or relatively wide zone of tension. Clear? It is a linear gradual increase in the species composition, or gradually increase hobo pare, or gradual decrease. Clear? So in between they have the most of the ecosystem lives here. Since in the ecotone both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem meets, so this is a zone of very high productivity. Remember, this is a zone of very high productivity. In this zone, number of species and population density of some species can be higher than in either community. Like for example, আমি যদি চাও mangroves, they have very highly productive ecosystem, and number of species of mangrove trees is higher than both in water or terrestrial or water jiman thakiba tatke ecotone area it will be much more higher. So this effect is called edge effect. Then edge species. What are edge species? They are the organisms that are found predominantly on or most abundantly in this zone. এই জোনত যোনবোৰ species পায়, they are called the edge species. Clear? For example, bird density is higher in the mixed habitat of ecotone. So সেই কাৰণে আমি কি দেখা পাওঁ? Wetland. It is also example of ecotone. Wetlandot we find maximum of the migratory birds. Clear? So this is all about today. Thank you.